Well, I am having a problem with my lift. The motor is going around, but the lift is not lifting, which means there's something wrong with the pump that pumps the hydraulic fluid up to this giant ram up here. I don't think they're that complicated, so I'm going to take this pump off and see if I can figure out what the problem is. So I'm going to take this tank off first, and it seems to have these 4 weirdly tiny bolts on it, but let me take those off and see if I can take this tank off. Tiny little 1/4 inch wrench. Okay. So I got all these bolts out of there. It didn't just fall down. Let's see if I can make it come out here. Don't really want to have hydraulic fluid all over the place. Okay. You can see this pickup line. There's fluid to here, and then there's nothing up to the pump. And my uneducated self wants to say it's not able to prime, get it into this pump so it can start pumping it. But I believe these pumps are self-priming, and so that's probably not the problem. I'm going to take these bolts off and see if I can get this pump off and see. We just got to go deeper and see what else we can find. So I got these two bolts out there. They're long bolts. Those longer ones there. That one I think is probably a drain plug, which came out of the other side, someplace in here. Came out of that hole, that hole, that hole. Can't really see it. But it's just those 2 bolts on the side, and you have to sort of pull it down. It looks actually like really good. So I was thinking maybe this spline, which fits up into the motor there, might be stripped out, but that looks good. It turns fine. I don't know. All the seals look good. I'm gonna have to keep going and see, or I might just put it back together again and see if it might work. I don't know. Well, let me keep looking. Since everything on the pump looks good, I'm gonna just explore this plate a little bit. There's this hole over here, and this had this sort of check valve in it. It's got a spring, and then at the end of the spring was this ball, and this ball would go into there. You can see inside there now. I think it's a like pressure release valve, and if for whatever reason there's too much pressure in there, it'll eject it back down, and there's a hole in there that comes down that tube. So I guess it's worth making sure that that ball is seated in there well enough. There's another cap here. I'm going to take that off and see what's in there. Well, I mean, that's a hole, and this is the piece that was in it. I don't know. I cleaned it up. The seals look okay. I guess that's. I guess I could take this plate off, but I'm not certain that's going to do anything. I think I'm going to put it back together again and see if I'm still having problems. Thing here, the farther you screw it in, so the spring is on the inside of that, farther you screw it in, the more pressure that'll have to be exerted to push that spring and ball out to bypass, I suppose, the line and shoot it back down the return here. So it's possible that was just too loose and that wasn't plugging the hole up so that it couldn't build pressure. So I'm going to try to screw this down a little harder. I don't have any manual or anything. I'm sure that makes it more dangerous. So, but with that in mind, let me give that a try. I suppose the splines in there could be stripped, and so it's not turning the pump. Let me see if I get this to focus. Let's see, focus. Yeah, you can see the splines in there pretty well, and they look good. I don't think that's the problem. Alright, I have to fire up my generator in order to run this sucker. So I don't know how helpful the video is going to be. Hopefully, I mean, I got it fixed, right? But I'm not sure what was wrong. Maybe some theories. If I had to maybe guess, there was the pump maybe wasn't totally tight up against the block, and there was some, I don't know, there was something, some material or dirt or stuff on top of that pump. That pump has an O-ring around it. It has to be perfectly sealed or it's not going to suck the fluid up. So I cleaned that off, and that might have been the issue. I did tighten down this check valve or whatever it is. That might have been the issue. I also, this cap wasn't on very tight, and so I used a wrench and tried to tighten it down more. I don't know. I think this has to be pretty airtight. There's a nice O-ring around the top here, which makes me think that's important. So this wasn't very, this was just kind of on here. So I made sure that was tight. And then everything was clean and put it all back together, made sure it was all tightened up snug, and it seems to work just fine. So I, take it for what it's worth. This over here is what's going to eventually power this lift, so I don't have to have this generator. So stay tuned for that.